You can go.
That's right, DGL7 Ralph Yaza. We doing this every week. We may be going to a monthly schedule after this, but you got another week, folks. So we got some hot ones for you today. I think that we just started talking about Mayor Adams. You got some information about he's running for mayor again. And just so you know, I was actually out petitioning on his behalf. I work with some consultants that are actually you know, I also got signatures for Sliwa. I got signatures for a bunch of candidates. Now, the thing is that I went even went to black neighborhoods, right, like Flatbush, and the thing is that the community has really turned on Mayor Adams. They are really unhappy, and if you take a look at the percentages, like I did like a racial breakdown also as well. Um, like amongst white people in Queens, right, he's got like 3% approval rating. This is really
Wow.
bad, man. And when I was out petitioning, even the black community, right? The numbers are extremely low, and I actually get like disgust and anger from people in the regular populace. I'm not sure 100% of that is where that's 100% coming from. I have some interviews on my channel where I ask people about that on the street. But there's some very interesting things that we're talking about before that popped up. We were talking about the budget, and just so you know, a lot of people who are running for office have never been in an elected position before. I have, and I know it was only in school, but there's a certain cycle that things go for. And the thing is, as soon as you get in, that's when the new year, a new budget is passed. This happens in Congress as well, and that budget is actually a huge fight that goes on. That's a big part of your job as a legislator. So a lot of people that are candidates running for office don't really understand this or know this. And even when I ask basic questions about the current budget, about New York City's budget, because we spend more on childhood education than on prisons, fire, and police combined. A lot of candidates had no idea of this. They have no idea how the money's being spent. They're just latching onto the issues of the moment. What are the algorithms talking about? Trying to get popular. No true understanding of how government works or the process of, election cycle, budget passing. You know, that's one. That's that'll happen immediately after you're elected. You got to be on board and ready to go. The way Trump was, not saying that everything Trump does is good, but when he came in, he had a game plan. He laid it down. Boom, 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 boom. So that's why people who have run before have kind of a leg up, and they do. Like Cuomo says that he has some qualification. Yeah, he'll know that process, but he also is extremely problematic. And I feel like we'll we'll talk about Cuomo too because I think it ties into the whole Adams thing. So to tell me about, right, once again, I feel like you're a master of transparency. You've made so many tools available to the public. Please email some. I think I don't know if I have them on my website yet, dgl7.com, but I have a list of activist resources, and Ralph Yazzo is actually a leader in terms of making those things available. So let's talk about Adams and what's going on.
Well, I'll put it in the chat is links to actually show what open data sets. There was laws passed 15, 10, whatever years ago. Gail Brewer is very proud of these open data laws. And it says that government, obviously there's Freedom of Information Act requests too, but that's a very slow process. You got to request it. But they also publish the information because they're our government, not, and someone said, oh, yes. So they create these data sets that are supposed to be live and constantly updated. But now the budget is released, but there's no corresponding open data set for that release of the budget. And I just want to go back to what you said. New York City's budget is so monitored by the state because, in the 70s, it was near bankrupt, right? The city was near bankruptcy, and only the teachers union, I think, saved it from bankruptcy. And so we're still beholden to the teachers union. And if you go to that link, it's just NYC Budget Live, which is a bit.ly link, but it goes to a site that will take the open data set, which is almost incomprehensible. It's like a data vomit dump. And it's still incomprehensible unless you know the budget, but at least it sorts it in the proper order, and it kind of does the manipulation for you so that you can see every quarter New York City is supposed to publish a budget, right? And
Yeah.
bless you.
Thank
But
you.
the only one that really counts is the last budget. In New York City's fiscal year, not to get even more confusing, doesn't even correspond to the calendar year. Its fiscal year, you probably know this, starts July 1st. So it's offset from the calendar year by 6 months. That's
Yeah.
why, as you said, and the state's budget, it has to begins April 1st. So that's why we do this whole budget. They call it the budget dance, but I think it's insulting to the people, right? To call it
Yeah.
a budget dance. It's not a dance. It's the most important thing we do, right? And we don't even hear about it. Nobody even eh, most people don't even know the fiscal years at all, right?
Yeah.
So
So what?
with go ahead.
So
I'm
one
sorry,
thing
go
you
ahead.
said was that Adams is kind of trying to like buy his way back into office. I definitely think there's about a lot of truth in that. Tell me about a little bit more about some of the things that you see. Um, I mean, like I think you just made the news about having a big $1 million giveaway to the schools and stuff, right? For the after school programs. After school programs are the biggest NFP funders. I actually even worked for a not for profit that was getting an after school program. It's just a way for the politicians to slide money to their pet not for profits that are going to be working the election cycle. They're not supposed to be involved in politics. They're determining the contracts. They absolutely are. It's just a huge giveaway to. He's also has. I also got to meet with Mayor Adams. I have another potential meeting coming up with Mayor Adams on. I believe that's going to be May 6th. Because the thing is that right now Adams is meeting with all the interfaith people, right? He's meeting with the church leaders and stuff like that, trying to once again cycle them for his own stuff. So I got in the last one. He I asked for something the civilian review board. I said, can we have actual civilians be involved instead of like political appointees? And I recorded where every single other person who was talking said, I'll assign someone to take care of a case. I'll assign someone to take care of you. But for me, there was nothing was promised. There was a huge gap. Nothing. And I also asked about
Wow.
justice for the wrongfully incarcerated. He can't because he cannot increase his own accountability. So that was recorded. That was interesting. But how many people really care about it? They
And
want to
use
hear the news of the moment. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, say the last part.
Yeah, like it's the people are that even though this is very significant news right here, until it's acknowledged by the talking heads and the gatekeepers, people are not really going to pay attention. But on May 6th, I actually invited some, the Chinese Americans got arrested protesting the homeless shelter down in the park. Stephen Chan, the first New York State Senate district that turned Asian American. He's a current, state senator. He actually released a profanity-filled tirade, yelling at the mayor, saying, "What the f is going on? You're arresting right Chinese Americans who are not like flipping cars or burning anything up. How could you do this?" And the people only here seeing it, right? Yeah, okay.
That's
I
South Brooklyn. Is that South
Yeah,
Brooklyn?
my
It's
people is gonna try to. We're gonna see if we can meet Mayor Adams at the next meeting, but now he might find out about it. But whatever. What I mean. The fact of the matter is that Mayor Adams, he's not all good, not all bad, but not people's getting thrown in the trash so that he can once again. The homeless shelters are a big funding part of his not-for-profit scheme. So
and,
it
and what
seems
did you
like
call
he's shoving the money. Go ahead.
what did you call it? NF. You call nonprofit
Not-for-profits, NFPs.
NFP. Oh God, I think we
Yeah,
should just use the word because too many acronyms. But I agree. The nonprofits are basically an arm of government.
yeah,
I've explained this to my family, everybody, right? That the salaries in government are limited. You can't come in mayor and make your salary $1 million. You can't do that. But
yeah,
there's nobody policing the, as you call NFPs or the nonprofits. Nobody's policing that except for the Department of Investigation that said it makes these articles and then there's no court case, there's no follow up, nothing, right? So it's exactly what you said is the grants and the salaries in nonprofits are all decided by the boards of directors, right? who are these boards of directors? Well, they are part of the machine. They are part, the mayor, you don't think the mayor has a say in who's the board of directors for all the different uh, um, uh, taxpayer-funded hospitals? Do you think that Health and Hospitals is completely independent, has real customers? No, it doesn't. How does it operate? It operates at enormous losses. The taxpayer is paying for all the hospitals, except for the private hospitals. And I think even the private hospitals are probably grants and federal funded,
Absolutely.
but at least most of their pay, they're not I don't think NYU is owned by New York City. It should be because it pays no property tax, anything. But these other hospitals, these Health and Hospitals ones, the public hospitals, they lose enormous amounts of money, and that ties into the budget.
Yeah.
I asked in our friend Reddit, the most vicious place on the planet, right? Even more vicious than Twitter. Um, and I said, because I look at the budget, I posted some links in the chat in the live stream. I put the live one that summarizes everything, but I also can put the detailed one, right?
Okay.
And it's in billions and billions of dollars. So if we talk about it, I think people should go to it themselves. And I guess can I put a screen, can you put a screenshot in here too? No, I don't, it doesn't look like you can put faces, but you can't put screens. All right, so I'll just describe it. If anybody goes to that link, and I asked on our friend Reddit, what does lump sum? So if you look down in that not the live link, the details, right? If you look down, there's a lump sum distribution of $3.4 billion. $3.4 billion. And I wondered, what in the world is this $3.4 billion lump sum? You know what it is? It's to bail out the hospitals. And the only way I found that is because there's news all the time about everything, but how do you know what to pay attention to? Right? There's billions and billions. So I searched lump sum 2026 fiscal year New York City, and it shows up. There's an article about it. And it shows up. It makes some sense of it. But yeah, see, I wrote lump sum NYC budget $3 billion. And it says right here, it's actually the AI people do it. Something like comments on the fiscal budget includes. Yeah, and it used to see the last time I did this, so I don't want to belabor it, but I'll put a link in the chat for this also. That here, I wonder why suddenly, you know what? Maybe Google has learned that, oh, there it is. There, something went wrong. Here, I'll just put a link there.
And the not-for-profit complex and the schools work together as a net to provide credibility and to provide like social programming and stuff like this to try to control communities. So the fact of the matter is that this is being weaponized against me right now. I'm being actually, kicked out of my building. My building recently got some government grants. The people who are receiving those grants are people from Spain, from Australia, and from other countries that are staying here. There's no right. I'm an American citizen, but I'm being forced to leave this building right here. We actually just came out of court, so they just announced their new broad NFP that's getting government funding, and the work that I do for the wrongfully incarcerated, for the trans community, for the homeless community, for the people in public housing, that's being because of it's inconvenient for the people in charge. They're using the not-for-profits to create replacement activists and replacement artists and community leaders. It's very disgusting.
Absolutely. They prefer people that aren't tied into the system, right? If you can get people brand new here and get government paying for their, so they can raise the rents or raise the whatever, the maintenance, or yeah, absolutely. That, I think that's happening to other people we know, right? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Un-
Look, maybe I see some stuff in the chat right quick. People
yeah,
commenting, maybe they're not happy about the the LGBTQ like trans stuff, but they're being used by both parties for a culture war to distract us from the real what's going on. And the thing is that Korean Americans were used in the culture war and the LA riots. This we just had the anniversary of Seigu, right? Yeah, which was caused the largest domestic disturbance in United States history, and nobody's really learning about that, right? Our community was targeted by the media, and this is happening to trans people right now, but we're not allowed to talk about that because it goes against what the gatekeepers plan for these communities. So, well, however you guys feel about it, I stand for all communities that are being, thrown into the garbage to achieve someone else's goal.
yeah.
So,
Someone's saying we love you guys, so that, and
okay,
also what you said about the media is absolutely true. How long have you been presenting as seems like professional? We don't. Yeah, like we could
right,
turn the
I know.
chat off if you. Yeah, yeah.
Not
Let
totally
people.
wrong,
We
but
are
just
fully
stay
for
focused
freedom
here.
of speech. Yeah, but the point is, um, the media can control. Because look at Adams was. I watched a news where they said, "Well, do you think to Eric Adams?" They say, do you think that you should step out of the race because you're interfering with Cuomo's?" And he goes, "What? I'm the mayor." I thought that was
Yeah,
hilarious. He's stepping into my race. Like they actually think they own the race. Like
and
who?
you know
And
why
when they,
Cuomo I think is so popular? Because Cuomo was even more predatory on the not-for-profit system and could pay those. Even though Adams is having a big giveaway, right? Because that's how he understands it. Remember that Cuomo was putting his family into positions at the homeless shelters, his family into positions at other not-for-profit institutions,
yeah.
and it's a big giveaway to the people that actually vote and the people that are actually involved. And I would say that's a very small percentage of the actual U.S. population. Maybe 10% of the people are actually involved, maybe even less, are actually involved in politics. And that's they say fighting oligarchy, AOC and Bernie Sanders. You have to understand that they know they're part of the oligarchy too in some ways because they're the ones who are politically active. Very small percentage.
So yeah, exactly. I turned the chat. I think I turned the
It's all
chat
good.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hey,
think I turned it off
the
because
more
we don't
no, it's
need.
good. It's good that they're here because I mean we don't have to
Okay.
talk about what they're saying, right? Because it doesn't make sense. But the more they engage, the better it is for us. So
Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, it doesn't matter because live it doesn't go off anyways. So if you're logged in, I just turned it off of here, but yeah. Anyway, it's still there. And so the because it's distracting, but it's good. But going back to what you said is that's interesting that the media can control the message. So now Eric Adams, according to the media, is not even the mayor. He's just, and he's trying to bribe his way back in. And the exactly what you said, the nonprofits not only control the money and the state money, not control it, they are beholden to it, right? And so they are part of the political machine. I volunteered at a senior nonprofit. They're poisoning the workers, and that's okay. Literally one of the people I that worked there, so-called work there, right? I said, this is not right. The people in the kitchen shouldn't have 10 burners that are giving them carbon monoxide constantly and poisoning their brain, right? In their lungs, and we need fresh air in the kitchen. And she said, yes, like, and she wanted to speak to the so-called board. I'll give names, I'll list names if you want. And you know what she was told? You know what she was told? You want to guess?
shut the f up. Get
Yes.
back in
No,
place.
it was. That's not your place.
Yeah,
You're in,
they're back in
you're
place,
not,
exactly.
that's not your stay in your place. Just do the paperwork and shut up and collect your 10 cents an hour, your shiny white penny or shiny penny every paycheck, and shut up. Like it politely, very politely, because she gets paid more than her, right? And then the
Yeah,
board gets paid even more. And then
and
of
if you
course
don't, we
there's
get rid of you. Yeah,
exactly. And then, of course, there's the ones that get paid nothing, right, on the board. And they are the children of the so-called rich, right? And so they have the right. Since I'm getting paid nothing, I'll make a fair decision. Of course, their fair decision is to go with the nonprofit or go with whatever Eric Adams tells them in there. And so what you said is it's impossible to police. I think you said that. And it is, because it's private phone calls and private conversations that people have. Why do you think Eric Adams is in every, he got his favorite restaurants and things like that? Because there's no recording of that, right? What you said about that event, right? You said that they didn't even respond to you, right? But I think it's usually the opposite. I think that they usually say yes, yes, yes. They just say yes, yes, yes to everybody, but they know in their head that they'll never respond to that, right? They'll
yeah,
just, oh, Mr. DJ, yes, absolutely, we'll get back to you. The office is, we want to have a further conversation, and so it looks polite, it looks nice on the video, right, or whatever the record, but in their head they're saying, we got, they nod to their security guard, say, get this guy out of here,
it's the masters of plausible deniability. That's why exactly the plan that we have to enter. That's why I love your project so much, as in terms of increasing transparency, so people can know what's going on, so they can't be hoodwinked, and also they have to be in county committee to actually have some say and ongoing power. Um,
Yes.
that's why I have the information about going out to the community and knowing about Mayor Adams doing horrible in the black community. I was in Harlem. I got people in Harlem there too. I got people in Flatbush. The black community is really giving. It's going to be tough. I think Mayor Adams is done. You're going to see. You got to turn it around severely. But he's
Yeah,
locking my
and
people up. He's not addressing certain things. I could be an ally because he's the sitting mayor now. But if he doesn't move my issues forward, then we're going to turn up. So out of the people that's watching, there may be people who are going to go and tell Mayor Adams, and maybe I won't get into the event. But I got other people showing up too. So you
yeah,
can
we
stop
can't be
me, but you won't know all my people going in. Go ahead. I don't care.
I hear you. I hear you. Exactly. We went to that local near Democrat Party event, and there were 3 or 4 of us. And then it turned out there were more people that came and protested the Cuomo part too. Cuomo lied. It was so funny. So, and I noticed that when Theo stood up and said that Paperboy Prince should be part of the debate, there were people clapping, and I'm saying, wow, this is not all the machine, right? And another thing I want to point out that happened this week is this is budget. We only get like this short window of time to talk about the budget. The budget is going on all year round. That's all they, well, other than self-promotion and raising the campaign finance monies. Where in on earth do you get a 10-to-1 return? That's
Oh yeah,
what
that's
is
the
that?
best in the world. Yeah,
A
that's insane.
1,000%. No people fight over 4% interest and here in campaigns you get 1,000% return. It's just and it's intertwined with the media because the media loves it. Because where do you think most of the money goes? I did a search in the search engine, that at prop.titleforce.org/elections, and I just put the word ads, right? Anything that refers to a ad, right? Ad money, ad political ads, and it turned out the sum over the last 20 years is like $1 billion of ad money, right? So the you're never going to see in CBS or NBC, or because there's where most of the money goes, because the cost of TV ads is astronomical. And these
Yeah.
campaigns are, even though they're almost worthless, in my opinion, you're better off with Google ads than those horrible whatever they're called, TV ads. Who in the modern day actually watches television? You just I haven't watched television in like 20 years.
I tell you who might actually watch television, right? Yeah, it might be the people in those senior homes. The thing is,
That's
you know what I mean?
it.
The thing is that there
They're
is
broadcasting.
older community votes more, and but once again, right? The thing is that also the consultants have a tendency to bang this. They're not perfect either, but there's no criticism of them because both the Republicans and Democrats are using the same consultants. So when the consultants do illegal stuff or bad things, a lot of times it's covered up because they don't want to also, if they could point the finger at them, they might end up implicating themselves. So there's a lot of shenanigans going on, and it's quite unfortunate. It's
Yeah.
just a reality. Yeah.
That's the other word to search for is strategy firms, because when you say consultants, they usually don't use the word consultant. They usually were red horse strategies. These if you just
Precision
search,
strategies. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. If you use the word, because that looks cool, right? If you say you're a consultant, that sounds generic, but strategy, campaign strategy. People have asked me, do you know any campaign manager, the strategy thing? And I say, no, and I stay away from those people. I don't like them. So the going back to what you said is this week, I think I was trying to say is we only have this short window of time to talk about the budget. I've actually met people that'll give you the details. Oh, this is the microsecond that you get to speak to your representative. Because when they're walking from here to here, you have this window of opportunity. It's called I think it's called Constituency Day. You imagine at Albany, there's actually a day called Constituency Day, and that's the day 365 days out of the year. You're not allowed to speak to your representative, but there is one day where they allocate to you, and they're not there anyway. And I say to this person, that's an insult. That is an insult to the constituency. These people are elected to represent the constituency, and after a year, the task should be so exhausting that they should want to resign. They say, I can't do this anymore. This is destroying my family. This is destroying my health. I got to go, right? And we should have a watchdog. So I'll speak about a watchdog. We actually have something called, and you tell me your first reaction, yes or no, right? Tell me, DJ, do you know that there, and we may have spoken about this before, but do you know there's actually a whole department called the New York City Independent Budget Office? Yes or no?
Oh yeah, you mentioned that before.
I did. Okay, so you knew because I mentioned it before. But I
That's
would
the
think
only reason I did.
thank you for being honest. Our viewers should know that this New York City Independent Budget Office goes back to the era of the bankruptcy. It was set up because New York City, not only does the state not trust the city to do its budget, the city itself doesn't trust the city to do the budget. And there was supposed to be a watchdog called the Independent Budget Office. But DJ, tell me what happens over 40 years to any agency in the city that gets paid by basically the city. What happens? I'll use the word. Do you want to use a word? What happens over time? It
Gets what? It gets rigid. It gets
corrupted. Yeah, it becomes part of the machine. Right, exactly. So now they have new young people, I think, at the Independent Budget Office. And you probably didn't even hear this, but they're releasing their new website. I and my friend posted saying the information on the Independent Budget Office is like 4 years old. It's wrong, right? It's not updated. And they replied saying, oh, yeah, you're right. And then magically, I guess it was just a coincidence that the budget is happening. It has nothing to do with me or my friend or anything. It's just there's a cycle, like you said, there's a cycle for everything. And I personally think the people should be outraged and say, no, there's no cycle. We're we're sovereign. The people are sovereign. The government gets its power from the consent of the governed, right?
You know,
And
if I could
that's
say, yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
if I could say something in their defense, though, okay. Now the thing is that look, I've been in a lot of positions. I've been an elected. I've been a homeless person. Probably going to be that soon. I've been, also as an artist, I get to hang out with people that are rich and poor. I hung out with like Oscar De La Renta's kid for a while, right? Yeah, like I've gotten to hang out with rich people and poor people. And let me tell you this: if you look at professional sports, right, a game, right, the thing is that there's millions of dollars at stake, and all of them are using performance enhancing drugs because there's too much at stake. Next year, their contracts up. If they don't get so many points, they're going to lose potentially millions of dollars. So there's someone right on their tail ready to take their spot. You know what I mean? They have to take the performance enhancing drugs despite the fact they're powerful and famous. They have no other choice. You get that?
Yeah.
If us as consumers said, you know what, we need to clean this game up, we're not going to participate in this. If you guys continue to use these performance enhancing drugs, then they could clean it up. But even though they're powerful, right? You think, oh, blah, blah, they're powerful, blah, blah, blah. They're controlling this? No, 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 no. Okay. Without us involved, even without their power, look at professional sports, that's a game. This is for even more. So I want you to understand that the not for profits and the everybody's doing it. The politicians work together. They're abusing the tax money to get themselves reelected. And if they don't, the other guy's going to do it. So that's just, we have to get involved, and it cannot clean up itself. I just want people to understand that. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's not, yeah, and I completely understand what you're saying is, yeah, this is not a simple system. I just added Black Air Force Energy. He said something, every elected position should have to do an interview of what they have accomplished. Exactly. Yeah, that should be, see, this is the issue. Exactly. Well, every 3 months or even more often, every week. Every place I am, I'm always doing a report of what I'm
They should
doing
wear a
every
body
day.
cam. We should be able to see what they're doing all the time.
Right. That is the extreme. I agree. If police have to wear body cam, now the weird thing about police is they turn it on, they turn it off. So if I'm doing something illegal, I turn it off, like, so maybe we have to have two people, like just like in a so-called nonprofit, in order to get money out of the bank account, you need two people to sign, right? We should elect two people to every office, maybe, and lower the pay, obviously. I think the pay should be zero because that will eliminate these problem children, right? And
Okay,
all
so
of it.
but check this out, right? The thing is that in Europe, okay, here in the United States, you're not allowed to film on factory farms, right? So if they're doing weird stuff with the animals, like injecting with hormones, you're not allowed to film that. Okay, but in Europe, you're allowed to do this. So the thing is that they don't have to hire oversight because the public is watching. And if
Exactly.
someone does something weird, so when you say a second person, it's like by having the body cam or by having a live feed, right? You're going to have basically the whole world is like the second person.
Absolutely. And do you know that there's enormous amounts of volunteer work that happens in New York City? The community boards are all volunteer. The Community Education Council, all they do is kind of, um, yeah, I don't want to be, yeah, I ain't even subbed. I don't want to be okay, good, cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so, and I don't know if I can remove him, but it doesn't matter.
No, it's all good. Yo, chat, by the
Yeah,
way, let us know if you're actually in county committee. You're planning on being county committee.
exactly. Right. Put that in the chat too, is if you're part of the county committee or you're literally 20 signatures, 30 signatures, and you don't even have to run, because the way the election works is if no one opposes you, you're just magically the county committee person.
Yeah,
And of
and
course,
then we can get together and we can decide on certain things, and we can say, you know what, like this is how my election. I talk to every Republican in my district, And if you need a vote to go a certain way, I'll make it happen. And if you need like a Democrat, I know who thinks what. I'll personally get to know these people, right? Remember, it's only like maybe 10%, 5% of the population. It's a small amount of people, and and when the vote comes, I'll visit certain people, and I won't visit certain other people. I'll make votes happen one way or the other.
And going back to county committee, most people say, what the heck does it do? Because we have to incentivize what the power is. Well, the power is one removed. There's this county executive board. I think there's also a county, you probably know this better, but there's
District leader.
there's district leaders, which I recommend Paperboy Prince take over that because he's got so much name recognition that he could become the district leader. And then the next thing you see is a district leader can also influence the nonprofits. So
I have,
we
I have to
have it.
admit to you, I really don't like Paperboy Prince.
Oh, okay, gotcha. It's okay. That's all right. But I'm just using him as an example of someone that's running for mayor, and it's very hard. You kind of need a big machine in order to run for mayor. But if we start, I'm just using as an example of let's because Eric Adams didn't start as mayor. He was assembly person. He was a Republican assembly person. Then he was a Republican. He probably was a district leader. He definitely was intertwined with the churches. He was a police officer. He just didn't start as mayor. Right? And so my point is that if you become a district leader, I've seen examples of this. One person ran, I think we talked about that maybe last week or weeks before. He ran, I won't use exact names unless someone asks. If someone asks in the chat, I put I searched on this person who ran as district leader at least one time, right? I could see the details. Then I spoke to him and I said, "Why did you stop running?" Because he didn't win. Another person won, and this person, and it turns out, then I search on his name. He says, well, it's too expensive to run. But then I search on his name, and he's on the board of directors for Interfaith, now called One Brooklyn Health or something. A nonprofit is playing games when they're constantly changing their name. If their name is changing constantly, they're in and out of bankruptcy.
Can I actually mention about that real quick?
Say
So
again?
just so you know, look, let me just talk about that for a second, right quick, okay? So the thing is that right now, I actually just had a meeting. I think her name was Claire Valdez or something. I gotta find the card. But the thing is that there's something called the Bushwick Senior Center. They're actually ended up becoming Riseboro, the largest landlord in Bushwick, and also one of the major not-for-profit service providers still working in senior housing. They actually went down. You can look this up. Bushwick Senior Center. They went down for corruption, for high levels in the Democrat Party. Now they rebranded as Riseboro. Okay. And guess who speaks at their annual dinners? Letitia James. Okay. If there's corrupt stuff going on, it's not going to get busted at Riseboro. You know what I mean? Not saying they all bad, but there is no transparency. And once again, the game is set up, right? For better or for worse. Not saying that, there's reasons like I explained before, right? But once again, Riseboro not supposed to be doing political work. They're part of the machine that funds. They're they're more than in bed together. They're basically fused together. It's the same machine.
I just want to interject that Riseboro and Vito Lopez, people should just, this goes way back, Riseboro, Vito Lopez. If you just look, I'll put it in the chat. It's disgusting. What you're saying is exactly
it's open
right.
knowledge.
They keep changing, and at least Riseboro hasn't changed, has it? It's called Ridgewood Bushwick Senior Center Council, a nonprofit. Yeah, I think that might have been its name before. And the other, okay, is now Riseboro. You're exactly right. Exactly.
And give me a second. And just so you know, right now, Riseboro is involved in third-party transfer stuff. Now, the fact of the matter is that I don't know if you know, but I'm also involved in public housing activism. And the thing is, the groups that I'm talking to, right, they refuse to have a discussion about third-party transfers and the danger that it represents to the residents there. They keep them on one page, and I hope that you guys see this. I will repost this in my own playlist in public housing. I'm not saying Section 9 isn't worth saving. I agree with that. But you guys have to also start learning about other aspects of how this can be weaponized against you. Section 9 can still weaponize it through this not-for-profit ownership, which is going on right now. This whole Rydeboro situation is being rolled out on you right now, okay? This is very frustrating to work with the community, but voices like they are steering your activism in certain directions. I want you to see this. Go less, not saying you're all bad, right? Legal Aid Society, they're not talking about third-party transfer, which Rydeboro's hips deep in. Look at Rydeboro and third-party transfer. You're gonna see they're trying to do something big right now with that.
Right, and Vito Lopez is intertwined with that, even though he's dead. He's probably happy in his grave. And you're exactly right. Rydesboro is the former Ridgewood Bushwick Senior Center Council. You know, you can't get more corrupt than Brooklyn Vito. Even just mentioning, we've talked about the disgust, that even the U.S. Supreme Court had disgust for New York State law. They just looked at the law and they said, one of the justices said, nothing stops legislatures from passing stupid laws. It's
Yeah.
just disgusting. And then so I just also recommend people talk to our New York City Independent Budget Office. They're hiring, they got a whole bunch of young people there, and they're having budget. So they go to places like the New York City Transportation Alternatives, and they go into their office and they so-called explain the budget to them, right? Because that's what
Yeah.
these nonprofits do. The nonprofits, what is their number one goal? Is to get more money from the taxpayer.
Oh, if I could
But they
just mention one
can't.
more thing, yeah. So the
Yeah,
thing is that
sure.
these not-for-profits, you can look this up. A lot of the not-for-profits have relationships with the press. And the thing is that they will literally give the press thousands of dollars, or they will invite influential people as hosts to come down to their galas and stuff like that. That's why, right? They also, these not-for-profits and the government can also deny access, and they're also, by the way, getting government money through grants. A lot of these professional organizations, they don't want to endanger the thousands of dollars that they're receiving, so they keep their mouth shut about certain things, and they agree to cover certain things in certain ways. And it's just gotten worse. I'm sorry to say, folks, it really has gotten significantly worse. You cannot
And
trust the media, especially the independent media out there. I'm telling you right now, there's so much infiltration in that space. Trust the people that
absolutely.
bewitch, not the ones that they give you. Joe Rogan, and I'm even call out Paperboy Prince right now, right? Yeah. Look, I know like he's I do think he should have been able to speak at the forum. If he did get on the ballot, then he has a right to speak. However, Paperboy loved Prince. That's his funding name is similar to Puff Daddy. I was behind the scenes. His people's talking about doing Tucci, that stuff, you know what I mean? He might be involved, with some of that Puff Daddy type of activity. It's very disturbing. Once again, Paperboy Prince, he does help a certain community, right? He helps people that are into fashion. He does these shows, but as in terms of helping the people that are actually poor, the public housing community hasn't come through. As in helping the wrongfully incarcerated, never came through. As in terms of helping disabled, never. Who's if he's not with you, right? Is he in county committee? No, it's beneath him, even though he loses again and again because it's cooler to be a prince than it is to be a worker. You know what I mean? Than to be a little person. And look, Paperboy Prince, like I'm not saying you all bad. I respect some of what you're doing out there, but is it people out here are really getting hurt. I'm working with people that have been shattered by decades of wrongful incarceration. I myself am going to be living on the streets real soon. You out there wearing clown makeup saying, vote for me, like, in a cool way. Okay. But who you
I,
helping, bro? Who you helping? I'm passing legislation right now for the deafblind. Look, I'm not mad. You have your little parties and you appeal to a certain segment of the population that doesn't want to really handle this hard work out here. But you actually are suppressing the work of people like myself. So because it gets in the way of your branding and of your I'm not saying that I need to eat your cake, man, but you suppressing people doing real work because it doesn't look good against what you're doing.
I hear
That's,
you, but we have to
that's
build
messed up.
alliances. I hear you. I
That's true.
definitely hear.
That's true. That's true.
And,
You
but
coalition is
going
necessary.
back, I
All
take
right,
I
what
take
Prince, we'll talk
notes.
about. I'm willing to work with you, man. Just be
Yeah,
real and stop being start acknowledging what's really going on out here in my work. And on your channel, who's that stripper that you have, that Asian lady? You know what I mean? Saying that I'm not a real activist, you bugging, bro. But you are. Yo, come on, man. You gotta set your people straight, man. And
I,
this is
I
AAPI month, bro. You using my people as sex toys and you denying our work and our real struggle. Yo, you
I
crazy, man. I'm about to be living on the street, man. You go party again, man. You go party while I'm living on that subway, man. You fucking crazy. I don't give a fuck. What I got to lose, man? Yeah, I got to be paired up with him. Uh,
I hear you.
okay,
Yeah,
I won't smash him, but I'll just he's messed around with that Puff Daddy stuff, man.
I hear you. So I
This is
definitely.
very dangerous for the black community as well, the one that he's supposed to represent. Look,
I,
everybody makes mistakes, but you got to be real about it, bro. That's it.
I I take notes on what you said, and back to you. You were saying the nonprofits. Another part of these nonprofits in this so-called independent media is they are children of rich people. If you look at the 990s for the so-called nonprofit independent media, the how do they start? Because it's very marketing is
It's
very
an easy
expensive in
job.
America. Say
It's
it's
a parking job.
yeah, it's a patronage job given down by the papa. Just like if you look at John Kennedy and Joe Kennedy. Joe Kennedy was, basically bought his way into John Kennedy. His other son died, right? Joe Kennedy Jr. died, and so he said, "I got to prop up the next one," right? So he propped up John Kennedy, and he published his book, and he bought all the books, and it's all. And people think, well, John Kennedy did it all by himself. No, his papa did it, and same with we could talk about our president, right? It has a lot to do with your ancestors, right? And then so they're children of the rich, and so it's exactly what you said is the nonprofits, even though they make believe they're independent, they are part of the media and they are part of the ad money. And the most sad is that word good government groups. Good government. Have you ever heard that? What does that even mean?
Look,
The media.
I'm not against rich people being part of the movement. Like
Me
honestly,
either.
we gotta help
Yeah,
them. But the
I
thing is,
agree,
they
but we
use it
should be
to replace
aware. Yeah.
us, and that's the horrible game. They play this replacement game, and also because these people are not connected to the struggle in the same way, because they say where there's no pain, there's no urgency, and just like you
Abs-
said earlier, right? They say they give you a line of, oh, we can't do anything. Oh, we just have to follow these rules. And even though people are being victimized because it's not them and their friends who are actually feeling the weight of the consequences. So that's,
Absolutely.
yeah,
These people have the reason why they're there is because their mommy or poppy
yeah.
said, we want to make them the president of some corporation. And then we say, well, create a real corporation that has customers, right? A for profit, and see if they succeed. 99, but they say, oh, no, 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 we can't do that. Our little boy can't, our little girl can't actually work.
Listen,
And,
I don't
and
think they're really wrong for that. I mean, that's natural human nature. Once
yes.
again, right? Like I said, I'm sorry to be like this,
You know,
but
that's okay.
like I said before, right? It's natural, right? Just like in the sports world, even the professional athletes, like the boxers, they know their opponents using steroids, putting their life at risk, but they can't clean the game up unless right, as long as the money keeps pouring in from the populace that doesn't care, that just allows the game to be run this way. Um,
Right.
that's natural, right? Anybody wants to help the children now. Like I can't hate on them for that, right? But if we allow that to happen and right, we just pay attention to something else.
Exactly.
We've been
So
taught to, right, in school, we've been taught to the slope of a line to make the boss rich, but we haven't been taught how to help ourselves, how to eat healthy, how to, like, right, and our children are suffering for this. They eat a low quality food to learn how to become a tool for someone else. This is, yeah,
and this wasn't hate. This is actually just bringing light to the fact, because if you go to these independent media sites, you wonder why in Google or whatever these independent media sites come above us, right?
So
I publish a lot of stuff, right? Why is theirs above us? Well, because behind the scenes, they're the ones. I've indexed millions of pages in Google, right? And I've gotten lots of hits, but it's there's certain words that you can't get, right?
yeah,
Like these
so
news articles, and Google treats news media differently than, like, the New York Times gets, uh, because they say they don't do that. They do it at a page level, and I believe that. I believe that it's done at a page level, but New York Times intertwines their pages so that they basically use the system for what they want, right? And so uh, the point is that these nonprofits are not as independent as you think, right? And these independent, so there's things, like I said, good government groups. And again, I appreciate your opinion because I'm not against anything. I'm just trying to bring light. These good government groups, there's one called, I think, CBC, something about City Budget Commission or something like that. They've been around for 40 years. The New York Independent Budget Office, 40 years. People don't even know they exist, right? And then we have good government people in Albany preaching to us about, and how do people in Albany know about what's happening in New York City? I don't want Albany people living in Albany telling us, oh, blah 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 about the budget. So we need, and so one last point is, in YouTube, when I'm watching YouTube things, right? I prefer the unprofessional, not flashy, not CBS, not NBC, not news media, because what does the news media do? They summarize. I don't want a summary. I want the details. I want the voice from people like you, right? Because as you said, they have very little skin in the game. These nonprofits run by children of millionaires and billionaires have very little skin in the game. Oh, someone was is kicked out of their house. Oh, the perfect line for them is the limousine liberal, right? Have you ever heard that term, limousine
yes,
liberal? They're
it's
liberal,
kills me.
but
Yeah,
they drive around in a limousine with a chauffeur. I mean, how liberal? I mean, it's easy to be a liberal when you're driven around by bodyguards and a chauffeur in a limousine, right? It's really easy. Oh, it's like Marie Antoinette, and you know what happened to Marie Antoinette?
yeah, that's yeah. The discard is really it's frustrating and it's provoking a lot of resentment, folks. So hopefully we could get this solved. Yeah, as you can see, we'll see how we can move this forward. So I appreciate you being a fan of real stuff, and just so you know too, once again, people like us need to actually get into positions of power. The county committee, just so you know, is actually packed with a lot of the not-for-profits. This is a huge problem, and actually, this is a big part of our fight.
Exactly. I'm trying to also monitor the chat
Okay.
thing, and we
Oh,
appreciate
that's cool.
everybody out there. But if you want to monitor,
I'm a
and
street cat, so I'm used to chaos. So you guys could do whatever you want in the chat. Like it's cool though. I appreciate it. Like either it's fun or it's serious. I don't. I'm not really sure, but I'm used to chaotic environments.
we're not big enough. If anybody wants to help monitor the chat and stuff like that and reply, please put it in. Also, DJ, I appreciate you because I listened to you, but I'm also trying to monitor the county committee. You keep bringing that up, and that is a blessing because I sometimes try something and try and try and try, and then I kind of back off a little bit, but I appreciate you bringing it up because, as I said, people might say county committee means nothing to me. But the reason why you want to be on the county committee is because that influences the so-called district leaders, which are elected positions, and then that influences the executive committee, and then on there's an executive board. Who knew that our Democrat Party is so messed up?
You
And
know,
so that
one thing
executive,
that I'd like to do with you, right? I'm excited to do this. Is unfortunately the not for profits are very deep in county committee. But what we could
yeah,
do is now that not for profits are having all these mayoral forums, blah blah blah, right? But I actually hit you and some other people on county committee, even a district leader, right? And what we could do is we could have like childhood education is the largest expenditure for New York City over fire, police, and prisons combined. So we could have a discussion or a town hall on that, and then we could have our network of people that vote a certain way, and we could start to build a little coalition. Say, you know what, this is a position we're going to support, and we could start to force through, right, our view, right, versus the professional elitist class, right? And some things we're going to have alignment on, but a lot of things we're not. And I'm definitely ready to take that fight on.
exactly. And so I'm still trying to motivate, join the county committee. So the executive board influences the convention that picks the New York State Supreme Court justices. So you see that chain of events is actually hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer money, because these Supreme Court justices start as civil court justices and as circuit court justices. So the court case that we started many weeks back that talked about this actually details how the county committee, actually the so-called county committee, buys and sells these seats. And not only that, but they also influence the nonprofits and the millions and millions and millions of dollars that go to these nonprofit CEOs. And it's all public. And maybe we're coming close to an hour, so maybe the next one we do, we can actually talk about how the public can see the nonprofit salaries, because it is you. I talk to people on my street. There's some people, in my neighborhood that literally are on these nonprofits and are getting paid millions of dollars. And I'm thinking, really, really, is that what's going on? That if you grease the right wheel, you get these no-show jobs. It's called sinecure in Italian, without care. Sinecure. It's disgusting.
You know, the CUNY chancellor makes more than the United States president.
Absolutely. Yes. That
That's
goes back
ridiculous.
to what, yes, because government salaries are limited. But that's why we invented these I think governments invented nonprofits. And you notice that the comptroller both of them, the one thing they agree on is that nonprofits have to be defended. And what Eric Adams just did? They get paid even before they send their invoice. Now, like it used to be that the Department of Management and Budget and Finance had to check the invoices or check. Now it appears as if they've just made a rule. They get paid. They were unfairly delayed because we had to actually check the bill. This is happening at the federal level too. If you look at what happens at the federal level, it's even worse. They, I just listened to one case. It was with Doge, right? And they said that there was a federal agency that was just paying them out. You didn't even have to send receipts. You just put in, and then suddenly, when they made the rule that you had to send receipts in order to get paid, it just dried up. The request dried up to zero. Something's not right.
And if that helps the press, they won't report on it because they're also
Oh,
getting, right? They're also part of the not-for-profits that are getting some of this money.
Oh, absolutely. Some of the press, I have to say that thank God for press that is not in on it, right? But it's you and I, because I don't trust any of them. I don't trust the conservative. I don't trust the liberals. I don't think we should have liberal and conservative media. I think we should have nonpartisan. I believe that the people that run it should be nonpartisan. Maybe they shouldn't be paid at all. Maybe they should be recorded, right? Definitely they should be interviewed every week or every week saying what was accomplished. And definitely it should be done by nonpartisan people like you and I, right? Of course, I just care about transparency. There should be transparent. And the number one thing is all the deals, all the budget numbers end up boiling down to numbers, right? We want the physical contracts. We want the paper trail. Just the way if you were going to put in an expense for 10 cents to a company where you work, they want the receipts, right? The exact same thing should happen with any city budget. Now, the next time, because we're crossing the hour, if you want, you can end it if you want. We can talk as long as you want, but I'll stop talking. Next time, let's go into the budget details because they do publish these things, but nobody looks at them, and they're at the $1 billion level. So don't hold your breath too long because it's not going to be much. It's going to be like lump sum $3 billion.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways these things could be money can be hidden in a budget right under different lines and stuff, and they can be reclassified or stuff like that, so it's hard to really watch for them. Sometimes it's open and blatant, but yeah, check us out next week, same time, Sunday 8 o'clock EST. I do have my event calendar. I got some things coming up, and hopefully soon we may be able to do that childhood education town hall. I'm trying to put that together, so that I think that's scheduled for potentially next week. Yeah. All right. Thanks
Cool.
again, folks, for checking it out.
Thank you, DJ. Yeah,
All
see you
right.
next time, next week. Yeah, bye. Ciao, everybody. Ciao.
All right.